Okay, all right, now we're good.
Ready? Okay, we'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Cambridge City Council here July 8th in the Cambridge City Hall at 7:01 PM. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Levi, could you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, you have the consent agenda before you.
I'll make a motion to approve the current agenda, approve the minutes of public hearing regular meeting on June 10th, 24, and a special meeting of June 7th of 24, and approve payments of bills.
Second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
No.
There's no one to oppose it, so the motion carries. Okay, we'll begin with our HECO report. Transportation, streets, roads, water system, wastewater system, everything.
Unfortunately, Mayor, Robert hasn't gotten back from vacation yet. I was not aware that this was on the agenda, so unfortunately, I didn't find out any information for you.
Okay,
But he will, when he gets back, I'll make sure he's aware of it, and he'll be ready and raring to go next time.
okay. So you'll be mainly going over the wastewater system then, and a couple items here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Item 3, JUB Engineering Inc. Design for Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP sidewalks.
Is everybody okay with the design? Based on our last month's open house, and we did have one comment at the open house from America's Rafting. They wanted to keep the sidewalk section there in front of their property and then just have the city pour concrete from the curb to their sidewalk and have just all concrete there. I see a potential issue of more intersection obstructions there by doing that, rather than having the sidewalk moved out to the curb. Not to mention the sidewalk that's in front of their house. Jared said it's in good condition, but it's in, it's not the best condition.
The surface is off of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks real, almost like pebbly
Yeah.
on that section, and then the next section after that, it's just gravel. So if we, you guys want to address that comment, however, leave it alone, or that's all my input on it.
Any thoughts?
Anybody have any thoughts on the comment?
Yeah, personally, I feel like the concrete's in pretty bad shape because the surface has gone off of it and it looked terrible next to the new concrete.
I agree.
I agree. And it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah, it's gonna keep deteriorating.
And it's not in the same place either
Yeah.
as the rest of it.
That's insane.
Put it in new to the curb, I would say.
We're not gonna do that much concrete there though for one property. No.
Okay, so,
Stick with the plan,
okay, we need a motion accordingly.
do we?
For
This is
the approval of the design
Oh,
of phase 3.
I'll make that motion to approve the design as lays out.
Page 3.
Huh?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 4, approve wastewater facility plan with preferred alternative. It's all up to you now.
Alrighty. The facility plan draft that I got sent up here, for the most part, the report is the same as what it was. What we did do is add an additional alternative, which was comprised of the Sager treatment system and the movement of the outfall to the Weezer River. And we lumped them together in that fashion, put it as a packaged alternative, even though the intent is if you can get away with just the outfall, that's all you'll need to move forward. But for purposes of being able to close out the facility plan, we lumped them together as one, so you can go either or. If the data that is being collected on the Weezer for temperature and pH, if that doesn't allow them to set the limit high enough, then you have the Sager, which we know will do the job, and you can keep the existing outfall.
Mhm.
If the limit is high enough, along the lines of what their preliminary determination was in the 30s, then all you need is the outfall change. And the Sager system can just sit on the shelf. It's kind of an approved system as far as DEQ would be concerned. And if down the road you were given a requirement for, say, a phosphorus permit, that system would be there. It could do phosphorus limit removals, because that will apply to the Weezer as well as it will to Rush Creek.
Right.
So you have that kind of as a fallback. But the next step after the approval of the plan, of course, is if you have funding, if you only need to move forward the outfall, the engineering report that would need to follow to DEQ to get that basically approval to construct, we only have to deal with that aspect of that alternative. The rest of it is just sitting on the shelf.
Where are we at with gathering that information we need, those pH levels and that? Because
I
we decided
can-
our machine was junk, wasn't it?
Well,
Yes.
8.73 on pH for the Weezer River is not, yeah, it's, according to the email from DEQ, it's feasible to have those levels, but even, I mean, in the meeting, they even said that was pretty high. So I actually got a response back from Matt Stutzman with DEQ today. They have the monitor and the SOP has been submitted. They're just waiting for their sample manager to approve the plan, and then they'll get it up and deployed ASAP to start collecting that
Okay,
data.
so we're not collecting data yet then?
Not yet. So hopefully that will happen within the next, well, I would like to say within the next week, but I'd say, you know, hopefully before the end of the month, for sure. So, if not,
When they're collecting data, I think, didn't they say they were going to collect through basically a summer season and then into the winter, so through roughly.
well, yeah, I don't know that they're actually, I don't even know that they would take it out. Like they would just leave
probably
it
won't,
in
yeah,
the
once they
river
get in
and
there.
just continuously collect that data. But yeah, they wanted to, you know, collect through the summer and continue into the winter for sure. So, you know, if by the end of the month, if, you know, if it's not looking like it's gonna get put in or anything, then we'll just have to look into putting one of our own in. Otherwise, I'll just send the mayor up there every hour on the hour to pull pH samples.
Sure. So how big a pipe was that outfall, the new outfall pipe, if we put that in?
At the moment, we put in basically the same size as Rush Creek, the one out there, which I believe is 10 inch.
Yeah, it's 10 inch.
Those 10 inch the whole way.
And it could certainly be upsized a little bit, it wouldn't hurt. One of the things that would have to be done, which beyond where this report needs to deal with, is with the new outfall, there will have to be a calculation for the diffuser.
Right.
That would have to go out into the Weezer River.
Mhm.
And I've done those types of studies in the past for another project. It's basically some mathematical calculations. So if we had to upsize it a little bit based on those calculations, that's when we would know for certain. But we were assumed right now that it's the same size as the existing Rush Creek outfall.
What was the total distance of that? Corey, do you?
So the email that I got from Matt at DEQ, he had measured it at 270 feet, but that was just a straight line, just as the birds fly from the
I
man.
noticed that in the design, it kind of curves around the one pond.
I didn't even pay attention to how long it was in
I
the
think we
design.
had it about 700 feet scaled to the to the location on the, it's on the diagram.
And so I'm assuming that the purpose of running it that way is to protect the existing vegetation and everything already along that bank there.
Yes,
As
and
opposed
also
to-
move it far enough down so you're past the confluence with Rush Creek.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that also is a spot, kind of looked like there was a kind of an opening in between the shrubbery.
Mm-hmm.
It also is real close to where the property line would intersect the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure to keep it on city property where we put it in.
Yeah,
The exact location, again, could be, is open to
sure.
discussion, because we will have to detail that much more specifically in the preliminary engineering report for approval of construction.
I mean, ideally, we'd want it to go into a big hole, wouldn't? A big hole in
Yeah,
the river,
where the
so
water-
that it could diffuse better and.
Yeah, that would certainly help, but if you put a proper diffuser on there, it will spread it across the entire width of the channel,
Oh,
which does just as good a job as putting it in a hole.
okay.
And those diffusers are designed in such a way that when you're discharging, they'll open up, and when basically the back pressure from the pump shuts off, the valves close. They're like a duckbill flapper valve.
Mm-hmm. Toilet valve.
That would be in the Weezer River
Yeah.
Yeah.
and survive ice coming down in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, the diffuser would be situated on the bottom, basically up off 6 inches or something like that, so that it would be submerged at the, and that would be one additional thing. We'd have to look at river depths.
Mm-hmm.
If a little bit farther downstream is a little bit deeper, so to make sure that it always is going to be covered even at low flows. That's all part of that additional determination. The idea of the facility plan is at least to give a concept to DEQ so that you can move to the next step.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, in about a month, we could just go look off the bridge and see where the low spots are.
Very apparent.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Well, I don't, like George was saying with all the other stuff in there, it's just, like the Sager system is set aside, so is, we could set aside the collection system stuff and those kinds of things, so we can just focus on the, meeting our permit limits initially, and then we can take care of the, what's it, priority 1 and priority 2 on the sewer stuff, which priority 1 is Cemetery Road, and it's kind of a mess up there, so. As far as right-of-way stuff, anyway, so,
I got
yeah.
no question there.
Sewer is not too bad, the sewer is more, manhole issues for I and those kinds of things, but that's 2 items away on our agenda, so.
The overall way that the preferred alternative is written up is, it's kind of compartmentalized in terms of costs. You've got the collection system costs, you've got the Sager costs, you've got the outfall costs. And that combined is kind of your chosen alternative, so to speak. These are the things that you would wish to pursue moving forward. Now, in what order and in how you phase them, that pretty much will be up to you to decide as we move forward. But the idea right now is, if that is an acceptable alternative, then we can close out the facility plan, get it to DEQ, get them to formal approval. As you await funding or whatever your next steps would be, then we can move into, okay, this is what we're gonna do first, and this is what we're gonna do second. And that's how that engineering report would be written to them to get approval to construct.
Okay, so we could do it all in stages
It's like the
Yes,
versus the
sidewalks.
whole project. So we could do this,
Move the
this new
outfall.
pipe, this outlet, and then if we still have problems, then we could work on our ITI stuff and eliminate, okay?
Yeah, I think in the short term, the I&I issues, you've gotten a lot of that corrected. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And for the facility plan, we projected a 1% growth, just to show that, down the road in 20 years, you still have the capacity to treat that. In my own mind, I'm assuming 1% is probably way optimistic, but it's a number.
I was gonna say, in 80 years, we haven't had 1% growth.
We went down 1%.
Gotta have a number to satisfy DEQ. But, in that context, if you had, with the I&I issues you may have still, if you don't have the growth, even though the flow would increase a little bit, we know the capacity of your treatment system right now would more than handle that. Even if you had the 1% growth, it's big enough to handle that. So if you had to put off doing I&I corrections to a later date, it's probably not gonna be a big thing. Your system will still handle it.
Okay. So, okay, well, we'll talk more about I&I when we get down to it. So, okay, any other questions on the facilities plan?
This is an action item.
It is, DEQ's waiting on us. We got it on hold, but
Make a motion to approve the wastewater facility plan with alternative number 4 as our preferred alternative.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the wastewater facilities plan with alternative number 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, 175 North First Street, property planning and zoning and building requirements. Aaron.
You want a podium, Darren?
Yeah, I'll just sit
Okay.
over here.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can muscle it out of there if need be.
Here, we'll turn the light off.
You gotta go backwards. You gotta go backwards.
Is that enough light for you, Darren?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just thought we could see it a little better.
So, we'll just do it out. Okay, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Darren Braun, and I thank you for adding this to your agenda tonight. Tonight, we're here to submit a proposal to the city of Cambridge. But first, I'd like you to bear with me as I give you some background on myself, as most of you in this room probably already know. As I gathered my thoughts tonight to prepare, it struck me by how tight-knit the people in Cambridge are and how intertwined their lives are. Cambridge is a special place, and the thing that makes this place special is the people. My plan tonight was to start out by talking about the physical town of Cambridge, and I quickly realized that Cambridge is more about the people than the buildings, and I had to add some names to my presentation, not for glory or prestige, but because of the real memories and because of the people. I was born in 1970 in Weiser, Idaho, and after a night in the hospital, I was off to my new home in Cambridge, on my way to become a part of this great community. My dad, Leo, ranched at Horse Flats with Earl Armacost and eventually put up a dairy out by the Adams County line where the Coffers now live. My mom ran the Tangerine Restaurant, which was located between the Co-op and the Frontier Motel, and got tore down. It's now a parking lot and a set of gas pumps for the Co-op. My grandparents and my Uncle Herman, Roy, and Harvey owned the ranch on Cove Road that Cameron Hotel now owns. And they owned and operated the grain elevator that burned down in the late 80s where the new fire station is located. My Uncle Harvey and Aunt Chris would eventually own Cambridge Lumber. Cambridge has always been a community that bands together to make things happen. Someone comes up with a vision, they put out the word, and people from all over the valley show up to make it happen, either with labor or donations, not for personal gain, just to be part of the community or something greater than themselves. A few of the projects that I'm aware of at Cambridge, and when I say Cambridge, I mean the people, put together as a group. Not some are small groups and some are large groups, but the list is impressive. The list includes projects like the original exhibit hall that was the half-dome building that fell down in the snowstorm that the kids skated in for 50 or 60 years. The original sale barn at the fairgrounds, the animal barns, the food booths, the shelter over the bleachers at the horse show arena, which Sandra McKee's son did as a Nina Scout project, the Baptist Church parsonage, the Cambridge Library, the rodeo arena, the bleachers at the rodeo arena, the covers over the bleachers at the rodeo arena, the Cambridge Museum, the new exhibit hall, the new sale barn, the Salubria Center, painting the old high school gym, which Sandra coordinated, the tennis courts with Bob and Jean Peterson, who owned the Cambridge Lumber, put together, the Cambridge baseball diamonds that Adam spearheaded, Hell's Canyon Days, the truck show that Levi's in charge of. When people do something around here, they go all out. The museum is as nice as any in the state of Idaho. Adam's baseball diamond is first rate. Levi Harrison had trucks from Florida show up at his Hell's Canyon Days truck show. Randy had a country band from Nashville at a concert. Last year, Hell's Canyon Days, after the concert, I was walking across the street and I overheard an out-of-towner telling someone, "That was pretty impressive for a small town." And their friend looked at him and said, "That was pretty impressive for a big town. It's just more impressive that it was a small town." The best part is that every project I listed has a different group of faces. And I've not even listed a fraction of the projects or causes in this town. Just the first few that popped into my mind. I did not even start to mention the volunteerism, things like food booths, organizing marathons, bike-a-thons, sports programs, the wrestling program, programs like FFA or 4-H, lighting the water tower, or announcing football like Mr. Platt does. The rodeo board, fair board, fire department, EMTs, and the Rangeland Fire Protection Association, which Bilbo started to keep the federal government from being able to kick locals off their land during a fire. Even the city council and the work you do. So much is unseen. When I drive through Main Street and I see the trees planted, there are 3 different varieties of trees. They're planted in a sequence, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, consistent on both sides of the street. When I see them, I always think of Nan and Nan's trees. A simple detail that one person from Cambridge put out the effort to not only do something, but to do it perfectly. The list goes on. It is nothing short of amazing how productive and engaged this entire community is. If anyone thinks that it's one small group of people that is doing everything, that is because they don't realize how many things are really going on, all at the same time. It is emblematic of the old adage, birds of a feather flock together. In 1984, the start of my freshman year in Cambridge High School, there was a new student in the class named Blake Toothman. His dad, Okie, had moved Blake and his mother to Cambridge to get them out of California. Blake was not happy about it. Our ag teacher, Mr. Levington, made everyone stand up and introduce themselves. Blake stood up, introduced himself, and with a shell-shocked look on his face said, "I cannot believe my dad moved us out into the middle of nowhere. I was surfing on the beach in the sun, and now I'm here. The second I turned 18, I'm moving back to California." And he sat back down in his seat. We became friends, and Blake went everywhere with us. He always talked about his dream of getting back to California. One day I said, "Blake, I don't know why you want to move back to California. Cambridge is the greatest place on earth." I said, "None of us kids have a lot of money, but we all live like kings." He was not convinced, and 4 years later, as soon as he graduated in 1988, he was headed for California. He eventually joined the Air Force in time for Desert Storm and traveled around the world to places like Indonesia, Singapore, and beyond. In late 1992, 4 years after graduating, Blake came back to Cambridge to visit his parents. He stopped in to see me. I happened to be at my mom's place when Blake showed up, and we were talking, and my mom asked me, "Well, Blake, have you learned anything about life since you graduated?" Blake, in deep thought and reflection, listened to a few things, and then he said, "And Darren was all right all along. Cambridge really is the greatest place on earth." That was the last time I ever saw my friend Blake, as he was killed in an auto accident in Florida several months later. In the 1980s, the local economy was driven by dairy farms, which it would take me too long to name them all. There are so many. Idaho Power in our local warehouse, the sawmills and council in Tamarack, the Forest Service and council in Weezer managing timber sales, the logging companies like Richel's Logging, Lathar Logging, Harrison Logging. In the middle of the night, Cambridge would rumble to life with logging trucks starting to roll. Kids that wanted to stay in Cambridge looked to logging because that is where the good paying jobs were. In the 80s, I can remember sitting at Case Cafe with my dad and listening to the men talk about the spotted owl that was being used to stop logging in Oregon. A local logger said it is not affecting Idaho, but it is destroying Idaho, or it's destroying Oregon. About the same time, the federal government started a dairy buyout program, buying herds of dairy cows if the farmers would stop milking. I remember an old timer saying, "I don't think people realize how big the negative effect on these small towns the dairy buyout is going to be." He was right. Within a short window of time, Oregon logging companies were coming to Idaho looking for contracts. Areas were disappearing at an alarming rate. The keys during the last one to turn out the lights on this valley. The mills were closing, logging companies downsizing, logging trucks disappearing, and Idaho Power eventually closing their warehouse in Cambridge and moving to Fayette. And in that backdrop, a kid like me graduates and has to answer the question, how do I stay in Cambridge and make a decent living? How do I answer that question? The question resonates across small towns all over Idaho. Former Cambridge Mayor Larry Keller and Mike Campbell contemplated on that question often. They wanted local kids to be able to remain part of the town after graduating, but there was no easy answer or solution. I knew that if I wanted to live in Cambridge, I would need to come up with my own solution to that question. After many years of preparing, a friend and myself started a heavy highway construction company that chases public works contracts all over the state of Idaho. We have based our business in Cambridge, which was a lifelong goal. We anticipated that we could find a workforce of young people that wanted to stay in Cambridge and still make a decent living. What we did not anticipate is how much the demographic of the town has changed since the early 90s, with so many working class families and their kids moving away to survive. Like the old adage, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Unfortunately, when the large number of working people were here, our company was not. Now our company is here, but those people are gone. So we again find ourselves at the crossroads. Do we move our company to a location that has available workforce, or do we create our own solution to the problem? Which is the reason why we're here tonight. What is the number one challenge of operating a company like ours in Cambridge?
Housing.
It's finding qualified applicants. You're wrong, Corey. No.
I'm always wrong.
And what's causing the shortage of qualified workers in Cambridge?
Housing.
Yeah, the lack of housing. So who's some of the people affected by the housing?
Everybody.
The school employees. Caitlin works at the school, and she says that, you know, they've had problems with people, teachers, you know, not knowing where they would live if they went to work at Cambridge. We've had problems with finding places for our employees on where they would live. Idaho Power, there's a contingent of workers that live down in the company housing in Oxbow and Brownlee because they don't have a lot of choices of where else they could live. And young families, when kids are graduating from high school and want to move out of the house away from dad and mom, there's nothing affordable or available in Cambridge for them to go to. So we made a list of things that we think are, you know, adding to the shortage of housing. And the first thing on our list was aging houses, dilapidated houses, which many of them are over 100 years old. So while I pointed out a few of the houses that are no longer supporting families, remember that there are 181 current residential water meters in Cambridge. So 2 houses is 1% of the total of that. 18 houses is 10% of the total houses that are on here that have water meters. So many houses aren't supporting family or kids or the community. Here's an example of one on Holler. Water lines froze in the middle of the winter and broke, and then when it thawed out, they had a problem with mold, and now that house right there is condemned. This house was basically used as a dog kennel, so you can't really go inside of it, it's so bad. So it's dilapidated. Here's another one, last time I checked, it's over 100 years old, but nobody's living in this one at the current time. Here's one on the outskirts of Cambridge that's just falling apart, falling down, that someone used to live in. So another contributing factor to the housing shortage in Cambridge are short-term rentals and vacation rentals. Currently, there are 5 houses in the immediate area that are being used as short-term rentals where families and kids aren't living at this current time. Another factor of the housing shortage is the seasonal usage. These are houses that out-of-towners or out-of-staters have bought. This one gets used once a year for hunting. It's on the outskirts of town.
That's right behind us, isn't it?
That one's out off Cove Road. There's several more in town that we're just listing a fraction of the ones we know about. We're not even listing them all. You know, there's an apartment in this building that's not being used for anybody to live in except for once in a while. Gordy's house off US 95 is another example, just past Pine Creek. Some people from California bought that, and they come up once a year and stay at that house. Another cause is destroyed houses. So this house was destroyed by fire just a couple months ago. The house off US 95, just past Pine Creek, it burned down, it's not been replaced, the old Edna Howland place. The vacant lot right there on the top right corner, it's been repurposed. This lot, that was actually the house that was built in the 1980s, and my Uncle Herman lived there. And their neighbors bought it, tore it down, and turned it into the part of their yard, so it's been repurposed to a yard. So when I was in high school, there was a house near the tennis courts where the superintendent of the high school lived, and it's no longer standing there, it's gone. When I was in high school, there was a house across from the water tower, and it caught on fire. And the former church purchased it and repurposed it into a parking lot. So that house is gone. When I was in high school, there was a house and an auto shop that the bishops owned that's been repurposed into a gas station. And the apartments above Franklin Electric and B.A. Warren's are also vacant. And the results of all these vacancies, the bank is no longer in Cambridge. The pharmacy is gone. The movie theater is a distant memory. The Pioneer Express is closed. Lucky's Cafe is closed. Hunter's Inn, the coffee shop, is closed. The motel above the Hunter's Inn is closed. The motel behind Hunter's Inn is closed. The automotive shop, Steve's Automotive, is closed. The Co-op's automotive shop is closed, and their tire shop is closed. So what is sustaining the problem? The conundrum. Economics of the housing market. How can you afford $300,000 for a 100-year-old house? And lot prices, there are no lots for sale. You can't afford to build a house, a $300,000 house, just to build it down, to tear it down to build a $300,000 house on a $300,000 lot, because then you have a $600,000 house. It's just not affordable. The unavailability of homes, unfortunately, helps drive the price up to just exacerbate the problem. Economic options for families are currently non-existent. There's a lack of quality homes. Why pay for an old house when you can buy a new house for nearly the same money? Cambridge is surrounded by farm ground, which makes expansion less desirable. So what are the flawed solutions to the current problem? Living in RVs because of lack of housing. Last year I had 5 employees that are living in RVs because they have nowhere else to live. Commuting long distances. Currently I have an employee that drives from Ontario every day. I have one that drives from Colorado every day. And I have one that drives from Cunit every day. In the big cities, the new craze is room sharing, where people go out and they buy $1 million house with 5 or 6 bedrooms, and then they rent out a bedroom to different people, to 5 or 6 different people, and the people have to share the bathroom, the kitchen, and the living room. I can't imagine living like that, but unless the housing market, the housing shortage is addressed, that's the way of the future. Unfortunately, neighboring communities are facing the same challenge. We are here because we need your help to solve this problem. We need a solution to the problem that meets the following goals: to revive the community, to provide an availability of homes to help push the pricing of housing down, economical housing for the working class, quality homes, not manufactured homes, not trailers, not RVs, houses that add curb appeal, visual and aesthetics, enhance property values, increase the value of the community, increase city revenue, basically due to water and sewer hookups, and most importantly, houses that attract residents that contribute to the local economy. Currently, other towns are grappling with the same issue. McCall, in particular, Brumage Ski Hill, is working to figure out housing for employees because they are currently priced out of the housing market in McCall. As we know, the solution is not easy. It's just snapping your fingers. We have already started a radical plan to see if we can overcome the challenges and the government red tape. Why wait for an affluent out-of-towner to come and take control of the future of Cambridge and become subservient to his dictates? Why wait for an affluent out-of-towner to show up and build affordable housing in their town where they use government grants to build apartments, but then they tell you who you're allowed to rent to, and people with jobs make too much money to qualify. It makes more sense for locals to be in control of our own social engineering and not the government or outsiders. In consideration of all I've said tonight, we are moving forward with all haste. We are risking everything we have to attack the problem head on. First, we have purchased the destroyed property, the dog kennel at 175 North First Street. We plan to tear down the existing structure. Next, we are starting a limited liability company, locally controlled and owned by interested investors. Adam and Caitlin Papanow are founding members, and Caitlin will be the manager of the LLC. As a group, we started to drive around the city of Boise looking for ideas, looking to find the perfect square peg to fit in our proverbial square hole. One thing we noticed, for example, we're at one of the new high-end developments in Boise called Harris Ranch. They designed their community around the idea of sustainability. They are nice houses with very small yards to water and maintain. The original lot sizes in Cambridge are antiquated. The narrow, deep lots were originally designed to be used for buildings like Franklin Electric and City Market, where they share a common wall and you just build one building against the next. If the town would have filled out to conform to Moses Hopper's original plat map, Cambridge would have been quite a city. Many current new subdivisions create lots that are wider than they are deep. In our travels to Boise, we were looking for houses that would fit on narrow, deep lots. After much consideration, we found our square peg. Let's go ahead and skip that right there. This is our intent. Our proposal is to build 3 new stick-built houses, 1,800 square feet, deep, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, central air, single car garage, driveway parking, and patio. In order for us to move forward, we will be submitting a request for a variance to the city of Cambridge on 3 items. We will be submitting a request in letter format requesting approval before plans are drawn, as any changes to the request would directly affect the or possibly eliminate the need for plans. The 3 variances include reducing the front setback, eliminating the minimum square foot lot size, and reducing the side offset requirement. The existing lots at 175 North First Street are 2 50-foot lots, together that is 100 foot wide. We pulled a copy of the plans for the property we are emulating in Boise, and they took a 104 foot wide property and built 4 1,800 square foot houses on it. That is 26 foot wide lots. We are proposing 3 houses on 100 foot, which is 33.3 foot wide, which is 7.3 wider than the Boise lots. That is 28% wider. Here's a photo of the Boise plot map beside our proposed plot map. What variances will we be requesting from the city? Variance number 1 is to reduce the setback from 30 foot to 20 foot as part of our proposal. If approved, we will place the curb and gutter and a 5-foot sidewalk across the front of the property at our expense. Corey told us the right-of-way is 80 foot wide.
That's correct.
We have attached the Ada County Highway District Road Design Template, which shows 19.5 feet from the center line to the back of the curb. We are proposing 24 foot to the back of the curb, which is 4.5 feet wider than Ada County requires. So if you look at that plan we just handed out, Ada County has the travel lane with the cars driving down the middle of the road, and then they have a parking lane, which is like 7.5 feet wide, and then they have the curb on the side of that. And so Cambridge doesn't really have a standard on how wide the highways or the streets are supposed to be that we've been able to find anyway. So what we did is we pulled out Ada County Highway District's design, and
As far as the paved travel part of the street?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, for the paved
Yeah.
part of the street.
Yeah.
And so the reason that it's important to us is we want to know where the curb and gutter and the sidewalk would be in comparison to the front of the property line. That's why we wanted to determine how wide the street would be. So we have attached the Ada County Highway District's road design template, which shows 19.5 feet from the center line to the back of the curb. We're proposing 24 foot to the back of the curb, which is 4.5 feet wider than Ada County requires. We also request that the sidewalk is attached to the back of the curb, like you're currently doing on Main Street. To make this all easy to understand, if we build a house with the current 30-foot offset, the concrete driveway will actually be 41 foot long. 11 foot of the driveway crossing the city's right-of-way, and 30 foot on the lot.
Darren, hang on one second. And for those that don't understand, the reason that it's a 30-foot setback from the front is because it has a garage. If it didn't have a garage, it would be 20 foot, in case anybody on the council didn't know why there's the difference between 20 and 30 foot.
So, I'll say this again, to make this all easy to understand, if we build houses with a current 30-foot offset, the concrete driveway will actually be 41 foot long, 11 foot of the driveway crossing the right-of-way, and 30 foot on the lot. If the variance is approved, the driveway will be 31 foot long from the back of the sidewalk to the house, 11 foot crossing the right-of-way, and 20 foot on the lot. It just makes sense. You have a 30-foot driveway. I'm assuming the reason they want a 30-foot driveway is so if somebody parks a pickup on the driveway, that it's not sticking over the sidewalk when people are walking down the street. Yeah. And if the city has to dig through their right-of-way for any reason, there's no reason they can't drive the pickup out of the parking or out of the driveway while they're working on the parking or on the driveway. But that would be the first variance that we will be submitting, is to request shortening that offset from 30 foot to 20 foot. I'm going to put on the drawing where the neighbor's houses are. And on the right, the drawing on the right, you can see the adjacent setback and the adjacent setback on the screen, the one up on the screen. And our proposal is within a foot or so of those houses going to the 20 foot. Okay, good. The second variance is to remove the minimum square foot per lot. The square foot per lot in the existing code is arbitrary. We have the perfect example on the screen of one project in Boise that successfully used similar small lots. We can provide 100 more examples if necessary. Variance 3 is to reduce the side offset. We've kept the two outside properties in compliance with the existing code, but it will reduce the offset to the property in the middle to 9 feet between eaves. So this variance only affects the property we own. We plan to keep the snow on the roofs as part of the final design.
How tall are the eaves proposed?
I'd have to double check that. We didn't come to that number.
Just curious.
Again, here's the proposal that we planned. Your city code reads that it is intended therefore to provide for the orderly development of the city of Cambridge and its area of impact, to enhance property values, to ensure that the economy of Cambridge and its area of impact is protected and enhanced, and to encourage the protection of prime agriculture. Our proposal is in alignment with the purpose of the city code. So we hope that you will allow us to turn this into this. We are hereby submitting our variance request letter to Corey, the Public Works Director. We hope that the process of notification and advertisement can start immediately and the matter be voted on by the board in 3 weeks. Destiny is not written for us, it's written by us. Whatever direction the board moves on this matter will impact the town of Cambridge for the next 200 years, one way or the other. Both directions having a lasting effect. We hope that you will support this endeavor. Unless there are questions, we will now vacate the floor and turn the matter over to the Public Works Director.
I thought my seat felt hot.
Could I say just one thing, just to let you know, 3 weeks is an impossibility because of state code and public hearing requirements and notifying landowners within a certain geographical area and all of that stuff. So it wouldn't even cover if I put it in the paper tomorrow, it couldn't be done.
Okay.
But we can get you a timeline.
Okay.
It's a great idea. We've been wrestling with the housing thing on different committees that I've been on for years. Going, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? You know, and everybody talks about mini houses and all that stuff, or RVs or whatever, you know, and I applaud your solution. This is
This looks like the best answer.
This is awesome.
It's a great idea. I can just see that there's going to be some people around that area that are not going to be too pleased. You know, I mean, you can't please everybody, but you know, but yeah, I think it's awesome because when I first moved up here, I slept on a concrete floor for a month before I found a place to live. So.
So these be rental houses?
Yes, that's the plan. That's our hope. And that way we can, you know, if we sell it, we can control,
Yeah.
you know, who's gonna help the economy. Our goal is to, you know, help the working class
Yeah.
people that we're trying to have working in
I
Cambridge.
think that's a great idea.
Well, I think the mayor should see if he wants to be on the Cambridge Economic Task Force, because this is exactly what we've been talking about.
I mean, we're just we're doing the same thing you've been doing, trying to find solutions, you know, because of all the things that you brought up, you know, all the vacancies and all the properties that potentially could be available that aren't available for one reason or another, but could slowly become available, and this is kind of a,
Well, the thing about that, you know, like for us, we're putting all our effort into this, and it would be, you know, kind of, it would tell us, it would be like a litmus test.
Yeah.
Is it really a good idea when it's all done? And no matter what happens, it's a positive impact on Cambridge.
absolutely.
Even if, you know, if it had to be sold or something down the road, it'd still be a lasting positive influence.
What the estimated rent on one of those?
Well, we're hoping to, you know, we hate to say numbers right now, but we're hoping $1,200 to $1,500 is what we're hoping, because that's all people can afford, right? I mean, you go down to Fruitland and places like that, you know, $2,000, $2,500 and up for 2-bedroom stuff.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make it so people that are trying to work here can live in them is are really what we're trying to do.
Well, and one thing, this isn't in the city, but right now the mayor and I are working, and I've been working with Washington County on our impact area and changing some of the rules so that they'll go by city ordinances instead of Washington County ordinance. And the mayor and I were trying to identify areas in the impact area to maybe do our impact area a little bit different to see where growth can really come. You might want to.
Well, kind of with the laws that changed in this last session, legislative session, they've taken the impact area and they've eliminated Ag 1 kind of out of the impact area. And that's been a wrestling match that we've had with all the properties that we've worked with recently, is the county wants to come in and say, well, that's Ag 1 ground, you can't do that, we're trying to preserve Ag 1. Well, they've changed it to where everything in the impact area is for development. That's the whole point, is that they have development in the cities and not get urban sprawl, and so we can afford to run our water and sewer facilities with more connections. That's a big deal to us. That's a huge deal to us. And because we're struggling to keep our water and sewer online. And so we need to redefine our area of impact to, instead of just having a box around Cambridge, that we look at reality and what are really areas that are going to develop that we want to annex into the city and make part of the city. And so we got a ton of work to do. But this, I applaud your presentation. This is amazing. It's amazing.
That looks good.
Would it be possible to get a copy of your presentation so we have some of those details when we're trying to figure things out?
Chicken scratch, but yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's all we have, so.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
If you want to just, if you have it electronically.
We have our tiny homes and all that kind of stuff.
That's rough. These new lights are kind of rough.
Woo! And encroach out on that road a little bit and bring it to reality.
So what is?
That's rough. They got a creek out along there. So the driveway would be fine on.
Now you can still might have this 55
Yeah.
size.
We're gonna pull up the clouds and get it off the sidewalk. That's the reality.
It's a destination to have that kind of sidewalk and things like that.
But a solution to the housing is, and then the sidewalk. Okay, let's move on to our next item. I.
Alrighty.
Anybody, I guess, for people that are here, we might tell them what I is. They may not understand.
Inflow and infiltration.
I represents infiltration and inflow into a sewer system. Typically, that can occur, breaks in pipes, leaky joints, missing manhole covers, all sorts of things, but it allows for stormwater or groundwater to penetrate pipes and then travel in those pipes to the waste treatment facility. You would like to have the I value as low as possible so that your treatment plant is actually treating the wastewater, not treating stormwater. In some areas where you have significant I problems, you might have a huge flow coming into your treatment plant in wet weather, and in dry weather, you have almost no flow. I'm aware of some examples. I've worked all over the country. Parts of back east, on the East Coast, for example, in Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island, they have a treatment plant which is designed for about 150 million gallons per day. In dry weather, the actual average flow is only around 50 million gallons per day. But when a good nor'easter goes through that area, they're processing 150,000 gallons per day, and they're bypassing upwards of 50, 100, 150 more directly downtown core. All their roof drains, all of the stormwater that gets collected, instead of being directed out and discharged elsewhere, is directed directly into the sewer system. So they're called combined sewers. In Cambridge's case, the original system, which projects that were conducted in 2017, 2018, replaced most of the pipe, not all, but most of the pipe, and dropped the I&I problem, the volume significantly. This current study was to look at selected areas of the town which had not been replaced or upgraded in 2017 and 2018. The early part of May, a company did a closed circuit television camera through all of those pipes in those areas to look for cracks, broken pipes, missing pipes, joints that were leaking, and found in all three cases there was a significant amount of water coming into those pipes. About 2.5 weeks later, Robert Alonzo from our Payette office was here with a couple of other helpers and was physically looking at all the manholes during the nighttime, which would be typically, if you've got any flow in those pipes, is primarily going to be I&I and not domestic wastewater, assuming most everybody's asleep at that time. And they found in those same sections of pipes that the television footage showed there was leakage. There was not nearly as much. So it means that the groundwater level had dropped in that 2 or 2.5 week period sufficiently that it no longer was coming into the pipe. But we do know where the cracks are from the television footage. So in those areas, there was, we estimated that there still is a significant amount of I&I that would get into the pipes, and those would be, those 3 stretches would be the main ones that ought to be upgraded at some point in the future. They are the same areas that are listed as the primary number 1 focus in the facility plan. So the I&I study basically confirms what was suspected, that those same sections of pipe would need to be upgraded down the road.
So if we went through, there was a big concern about some of the manholes. The manholes were leaking through the gaps in the rings as you stack them up.
Right.
And so if we were to line those manholes, that would stop a lot of the water from coming in right there. So doing that in the future, can you replace the pipe and still use the same manhole? I mean,
Yes.
if we went to the expense of lining those so they didn't leak, and then as we progressed towards eliminating I&I, we could replace the piping between manholes without destroying or removing manholes.
Yes, and usually in most of the manholes, there's a section of pipe which goes through the pipe wall. And if that's properly sealed and everything, and I believe all of those sections are still, they're older, but it's PVC. Basically, you could match new PVC or high density polyethylene HDPE pipe, which the advantage there is it's a fusion process, butt welding fusion they call it, to join pieces of pipe, so you have no joints to speak of. PVC you could use, they're 20-foot sticks typically, so every 20 feet you're going to have another joint, and if it's installed correctly, like most of the new system when they did the replacement, it should minimize I&I. by code, there is an allowance for I&I even in brand new systems. So when somebody says, well, you're gonna get a new system, you're gonna have no I&I, theoretically that's true, but in practice, the joints and the construction is only as good as the contractor. So if they do a bang-up job putting it together, yes, you probably would have a minimal amount of I&I, well within the allowance, and it'll have a negligible effect on what you're collecting at your treatment plant. Those areas, if you did the manhole and that, basically, you saw that in the next spring that they're not leaking anymore, and you can see how that would affect your wastewater flow into your treatment plant. Plus, we could look at the TV footage. I believe at least in one or two areas there were specific pipe cracks
Okay.
that were very visible.
The old concrete pipe.
Yeah, yeah. And certainly those, you could do a spot repair just of those. But if you did the manhole, you can make the connection outside that manhole, run a new piece of pipe to the next manhole. Yeah, you can do it in 2 phases very easily.
Cool. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Spend more money. Well, that's been our whole goal. I mean,
You can take that up with DEQ.
yeah. Well, as you noticed in the paperwork, our best alternative was 5.5 million. And now our best alternative is about 3. So we reduced it some, and that was my whole goal, was we can't put that burden on our town. That's just too big a burden to just say, okay, we're gonna do it, and sign the paper and say, do it, and take on that kind of debt. We can't do that. I can't do that to my citizens here.
Right,
You know.
and I think that's why we tried to put the report together, so that, yes, the total price tag for all of those different components is that,
Yeah.
but.
But if we break it down, it's easier to swallow.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can do a little bit at a time and try to improve our circumstance where we're at and stay in compliance with DEQ so they stay off our back and don't start finding us. So I think that's what I like about it the best. We can do it in pieces and we can keep ourselves compliant and we can try to do it affordably over more time so we're not just swallowed up in debt.
And I think your main issue right now, of course, is the ammonia discharge, in the discharge.
Well, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that was all calibration of the machinery and it was all wrong and we can get the new pH figures and hopefully we're good to go. But that's all.
And that would be a much simpler fix in the scheme of things. The I&I issue, yes, it still exists, but at a much lower rate. And having to live with some I&I to some point in the future probably is not going to have that big of an impact on your treatment system.
Yeah.
It generally is working quite well, and if you have a new outfall and a higher ammonia limit, then that's your main goal, to get DEQ off your back. When that happens, now it's on your terms to do whatever other incremental improvements you can make within the system.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're shooting for. Anything else? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We need action.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Or no action. This is just a draft study.
Yeah, is this just information tonight?
Or
What do we need to do?
with your approval, we will then, unless you have any changes or modifications, our next step would be to submit it to DEQ for their review.
Okay. So we need an action.
So we're just gonna make a motion to approve the study?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the infiltration and inflow study.
Second.
Who'd you get as a second?
I heard Nan first.
I heard
Okay, Dan
Gene.
seconded. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You ready? Okay. Item 7, approve tentative budget for 2024-2025, fiscal year 2025.
So you should have the line item budget document plus the notice of budget hearing that needs tentatively approved. If you're good with it, I'll go through some of the main things. Not a whole lot of things have changed this year, just a few. I'll go through those, and then if you have any questions, just let me know. If you start on the first page with the general fund, as requested last month, I took the 3% increase, and I don't have all of the final figures in order to publish. So I bumped it up a little bit just because I don't want to leave any foregone out there. Then on grants, I did add $200,000 for LTAC grants if we can possibly get that. And then we have just the generic one that we've had in place on grants. State revenue sharing, actually the prediction from AIC has gone down. I was kind of surprised at that. It's been over the last about 10 years rapidly increasing, but now it's going down. So I guess there's not as much movement in the state. Our liquor fund distribution is also going down, and they predicted it. Well, AIC doesn't give me a good prediction of it. They say to look at these different factors and stuff, but Cambridge is actually usually has been pretty steady on liquor fund stuff compared to some of the towns. So I was actually a little more optimistic than maybe I should be. I hope not, but anyway, that was a little bit of a change. And then the CLG revenue at the end of the general fund there, Phil Pearson had come and told us that Washington County was going to take over that and that our CLG was going to be eliminated. That's no longer the case. The county found out how much our CLG actually has been doing and all of the records that they have and different things. So they want to keep our CLG in place. So I did put a little bit in the budget for them. So that was revenue. Is there any question on revenue? Any other? Okay, as far as the expenses, not too much has changed. I did put in a salary for a deputy clerk, and that's to go to so that they can work 20 hours a week or more instead of being part-time. Right now, with all the stuff that's going on and stuff, even having her here less than 19 hours, we're not keeping up with regular stuff. So, but unless we can figure something out in this year's budget, that won't start till October 1st, as far as with the benefits and being able to go 20 hours or more. Snow removal, I dropped just a little bit. The last several years, we haven't been using as much. I always wanted to cushion it because especially with Snowmageddon, we would have had real problems with our budget if we wouldn't have budgeted enough. But I did drop it just a little bit since we haven't been using that amount.
I was gonna say, if we have Snowmageddon.
It's all my fault.
Did we hear any more? Is the county going to do anything about having a local building official again versus?
They're still talking about it, yeah. And I think the discussion will really pick up probably after January. You can see in capital projects, I put a little bit more into that. We actually had a little bit better cash forward balance, so I put it into capital projects. And then the ITD strategic initiatives, I went ahead and budgeted that into next fiscal year because we don't even have a contract in place yet. We're waiting on some documents, and so there's a good chance we're not going to have it spent in this fiscal year. So I didn't want to have to reopen the budget again next year like we did this year. So is there any questions on expenditures for the general fund? Okay, on the museum, things are pretty much as usual except under grants. The MOA is completed on the Dixie Creek Bridge, and they redefined it to give the exact dollar amount, what Cambridge will get and what Weiser will get. The city of Cambridge will get $60,000 to replace the museum roof. The city of Weiser will get $20,000 for their comprehensive plan. Anyway, it's a signed, finished document. I haven't received the check yet. They have asked me who to cut the check to and stuff, so I'm hoping that we get a check here soon. So anyway, that's why the grant amounts changed a lot from last year. And they did have a better cash forward balance this year too. And so you can see that on the expenditure page. I put some of that cash forward into miscellaneous expenses so that they had a little bit more room for projects or if the roof repair goes over. And the one new thing that they do have is that they do have DSL now at the museum. They have internet. They've never had that before, which they need to because they're trying to change a lot of the documents over to electronic formats and stuff. And also then the museum workers have availability to internet, like if someone's working there, they can be doing something, you know, when people aren't in there looking at the museum. I think that's about all that changed on the museum. Any questions on the museum? Okay, the next one is the water fund. The only change for that in revenue is our 5% increase that went into effect July 1st. It sounds like that's a big increase, and you know, we hear a lot of stuff about it and stuff, and I know it is on everyone's individual pocketbook and stuff, but in the whole scheme of things, that's going to make the city another $6,835. So just want you to know, even though we increased it, that doesn't pay a lot of bills. So the cash forward balance, I'm predicting, which remember when I'm predicting that cash forward balance and stuff, that's what I think the balance is going to be September 30th in our bank account. So it's kind of hard to predict, but any questions on revenue? Okay, on expenditures, as far as the water fund, the only thing that's different is the deputy clerk. And I did increase the amount for grants from $200,000 to $500,000, especially if we start working on any type of a water project. It was in your packet. We didn't get funded by DEQ this time, and we'll have more of a report from Robert next time on that. But there's other avenues, so depending what we want to do on a water project. And capital projects was down a little bit in order to be able to have a deputy clerk too. Any questions on water expenditures? Okay, on the sewer fund, it's kind of the same thing as water, not too many changes. There's the 5% increase, which actually only gives us an increase of $9,145.
That covers one pump.
And actually the sewer fund has been our fund that has been struggling the most and was in the red last year, but as far as our audit, but what I'm predicting it doing a little bit better, and I have a little bit better than last year cash forward balance predicted there. So hopefully our sewer fund's doing a little bit better. And then as far as expenses on the sewer fund, about the only changes I have is for the deputy clerk, and then I did add more in engineering, which this year we spent even over that on engineering. But we know with the projects coming up, we're gonna have engineering. So, and capital projects was pretty close to the same. So, any questions on the sewer? So I took all of those figures by line items, and so that's what it went into your proposed tentative budget here for 2025. And then it shows your budget for last year and then the actuals in 23 on your tentative budget. And this will be what's published in the paper and our budget hearings at our next meeting in August at the very beginning.
Make a motion to approve the tentative budget for the 24-25 fiscal year 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 8, report on new utility building portal, museum, MOA, Dixie Creek Bridge, mining, Cuddy Mountain, recording, Washington County Commissioners meeting. Sandra.
Well, I'll start with the new utility billing. Our old utility billing through BDS, we're having lots of problems, lots of payments getting lost in the cloud somewhere and not getting pushed through. And we even disconnected a few people because we didn't know there was a payment that was made somewhere type of thing. Anyway, come to find out, they were actually shutting down our system the end of June, but we had started looking into other systems, and actually the software company we use for everything else knew that there had been lots of issues, and they came up with their own system, which is just really user-friendly compared to what we've had. And so it'll give people a lot more options as far as paying their utilities and stuff. With this new company, it's Paya, and it's actually through BMS, Black Mountain Software. Paya is just the third party. There's a 3.5% with a $2.50 minimum for credit card transactions and a flat fee of $1.95 for ACH transactions, and that's paid by the customer, not the city. And you can pay your utility bills with a debit or credit card or through checking your savings, and there's an auto pay and a text and pay option with it. And you know, so there's a lot of people that wanted to set it up on auto pay so they don't forget and don't get disconnected and all that good stuff. And you can pay by anything. You don't have to do it at a computer. It can be on your phone, laptop, you know. And if you enroll, they'll even send you a text when it's time so you remember, and you can go on and pay it and things like that. So anyway, it has a lot of great features, and so, and it's fully PCI compliant, and we've got to keep up on that compliancy anyway. So anyway, I think it'll be a great addition to.
The only complaint I've heard about it is you have to have like a 12-digit PIN number. Or 12 digits.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I haven't heard of that part, but I don't.
Somebody said you had to have a 12-digit code. So how am I supposed to remember that?
Yeah. Well, I thought when we went through it, it was only a 4, but I'm not sure what they're talking about there. So anyway, does anyone have any questions about the new utility billing portal or anything? There's a link on our website, cambridge.id.gov, that people can go to and just click it, and it takes them right there, and they can, you know, set it up from there, or we can help set them up or whatever. So. Okay, and I already talked a little bit about the MOA on the Dixie Creek Bridge, that's all completed. And I believe Darren's going to be going on the bridge here pretty soon, right? And so anyway, hopefully we have our money and can we have already accepted our bid on the roof contingent upon receiving that payment. So as soon as I have the payment, Corey will get with the contractor and get going on that.
Well, first, we'll make sure he knows the rules he has to follow because it's a historical building.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of specific rules, and SHPO will be on us, and they'll want the money back if we don't do it just right. So we'll have to go through all of that. Okay, the next thing I was going to talk a little bit about is mining, and that's going around. That's been going on around us. And we've had Hercules here before, and I don't know if anyone went to the last town hall, but you would have found out that Hercules Silver has changed their name to Hercules Metals because they found more than just silver, and they want to be known for all metals.
They want to be all inclusive.
Yeah. About that town hall meeting, and there's another one that'll be in the Weezer Signal this town hall. I talked to Chris Longton again. He had come and talked with the mayor and I last year, and anyway, he's said he'd come talk to us again if we had any questions, because I sent you guys a link to the Washington County Commissioners meeting, and they have mining. Said during the commissioners meeting that they had a different opinion of, and it sounds like there are a few things that they might like to clarify. And so hopefully here in the next few weeks, the mayor and I will be meeting with him. Let's see, one of the things I wanted just to, because I'm not sure if everyone made it, that they said at the town hall that of the mining claims, only 800 are Hercules. You know, so there's lots of other people that are doing claims as well besides Hercules. And one of those is Zeus North American Mining Company, and they are in the area from what I've been told. And I'm going to read just a little bit of what they've had to say about Cambridge. They're pleased to highlight its 2024 exploration plans and highlights its flagship Cuddy Mountain property immediately adjacent to Hercules Silver Corp. Hercules Project Ritz reported a copper porphyry discovery in Idaho. From what I heard, it's within a stone's throw, and there's pictures in here and stuff that showed you how it goes right along Hercules borders. And it says the area has been subject to a stake rushing whereby numerous companies and individuals have staked thousands of mining claims both to the northeast and south of Hercules discovery. It's highlighted by Barrick Gold and Rio Tinto's presence in the area, and by Hercules ring staking on Zeus Cuddy Mountain property. And they plan to conduct soil sampling, mapping, prospecting, and rock grabbing samples and high resolution ground magnetics at the Cuddy Mountain property during the summer of 2024. And so on the maps that I gave you, you can see on the second one that of Barrick Gold's here and of Rio Tinto. Now I know Rio was in town last year. I haven't heard of them around here this year. I don't know. I haven't heard anything of them. Anyway, someone the other day gave me some more names of some mining companies that they've heard that are around here. So I don't know. All I know is we've got a lot going on up there in the mountain type of thing. How many of you watched the video that I sent from the Washington County Commissioners meeting?
Wouldn't download.
Good job, man.
It was interesting.
I wouldn't download.
Yours wouldn't download? Huh.
I'm watching.
You watched it? Mayor, did you watch it yet?
No.
No. Well, I have it ready for people to watch if they want to watch it.
I was amazed at the 5-year out, Cambridge might not be recognizable.
Well, and like I say, I think one reason the town hall was done that, there were some different ideas on years and stuff, but this guy had a lot of experience and he brought a lot of good points out. And I think it's real important as we plan for housing and whatever our needs are for Cambridge, because it looks like we might have quite a bit going on if things do end up being a go. And,
Then we'll need housing.
yeah. Well, and that's one thing that we were going to talk to him about that we've been kind of working on, but we kind of move like their exploratory company does. It'll probably take us 8 or 10 or 13 years to try to have something in place too, type of thing. But we've got some things that I had down to talk to him about were permitting, and I wanted to talk to him about our water and sewer capacity, because I know in the meeting with the commissioners, they brought up that they didn't think Cambridge had any capacity and we had to do these projects and it was really expensive for the people and type of thing. But we're only at 60-some% capacity with water and sewer. We have plenty room for growth right now on what we already have in place.
We just need more storage capacity for fire.
Yeah, we do need more storage capacity for.
It'd be interesting to talk to an old timer and see how long it took Cambridge to gear up when they started building the mines or the dams down there. I mean, I'm just of the mindset that a lot of people will step up and be able to support whatever happens.
Yeah.
And they did before and we'll do it again, and I just have a lot of confidence in our community that will happen.
Well, one thing that's different between now and back then is the permitting process wasn't so cumbersome back then as it is now.
But I mean, just people showing up and being able to take care of people and take care of equipment problems, take care of tires and all that kind of stuff. I think it'll just happen.
Yeah. Another thing we wanted to talk, and that we're working on right now is zoning ordinances. I've had conversations with the planning and zoning administrator and the county commissioners, and we'll actually be probably talking to the county commissioners here again pretty soon about the impact area, going on our zoning ordinances instead of the counties, and also some changes in the impact area. And I wanted to let Hercules know that we're working on those types of things. And also, the Cambridge Economic Task Force has been kind of kicking around a lot of things too, working on them, and been talking about, well, we know we might need a bigger grocery store. Where could a bigger grocery store go? A bank. Not necessarily have to have a bank anymore, but I know a lot of people still want a bank, but we actually have a credit union coming to town on the 18th to talk to us. One thing they pointed out is restaurants. Luckily, we do have a pizza place now, but I mean, that's something that can still be worked on. Schools, that's something that needs to be addressed if we have a lot of growth, exactly how that would go. And the commissioner meeting, that guy talked about what's happened in other towns like that and how they've dealt with growth for schools. And also, exactly, most of the mining camp, and, do they foresee a camp more on the mountain or closer to the impact area, or, what could we do to plan for that if we needed to? So anyway, I was wondering if there were some questions the council would like to make sure the mayor and I ask when we meet with Hercules Metals. Or any other, we're going to encourage any other of those mining companies, if they want to give a presentation, have a town hall, they need to do it too, type of thing. Would you guys like to watch that?
Clarification, I'm assuming, and I probably shouldn't, when they start developing, they get their permits and everything in line, they start developing, that's when the camp would probably go in. You have temporary workers, as I understand it.
Mainly, they say they want to mainly hire local.
Bring in, you know, the gypsies, basically. Not really gypsies, but the high voltage electricians that go from job to job.
I thought that's who was here right now, all the drillers.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, specialized crews that come in. But then, how long does it take before they transition over into a permanent shift work? That-
Well, I think their prediction in the 8 to 13 years
Building, getting it,
it would, hopefully, if it's a go, be more ready for production in 13 years.
they said, okay.
And then it would be in production about 20 years.
And that's when population will,
Yeah.
and possibly crime, they mentioned.
Yeah, and that's one thing, talk to them, I mean, I have family that live in
Shale Island, North Dakota.
What's that?
The Shale, Williston, North Dakota, what happened to them, we've got to be careful and be prepared.
We'll just have to pay the sheriff more money every year to come up here and actually do something.
But, you know, just like fire and ambulance and all of that, most mining companies, they already have that stuff in place.
And evidently are very willing to help out municipalities
Yeah,
if you ask.
yeah. Well, basically, that's what this guy said. Mainly what you need to do is ask.
So I used to work for a company called Hugh and Sons, and they built camps like that, and they, they like diabetic mine in Canada, and built oil fields up in North Dakota, and they exploded, when they started growing, and most companies don't build camps unless they have to, so one of the main reasons they say that is to keep towns like Cambridge from panicking. 700 workers are gonna move into Cambridge, so they say, oh yeah, we build camps to keep people calm. But if the city of Cambridge could support their workforce, they wouldn't spend the money to build a camp. It's not, it's not a beneficial, they're not gonna make money by building a camp. It's gonna cost them money to build a camp. So the reason the companies do that is because the towns next door can't provide them enough workers or enough places. So the oil fields up in North Dakota are going crazy, there was nowhere to live. And so that's why companies like the ones I work for started building camps is because nobody can find housing.
Yeah. Although it's got to be kind of planned too, because I've got relatives in Chalice and stuff that have worked at the mines, and it's been a mining town and stuff, and there were great big subdivisions went in. Well, now if you go over there, that subdivision's pretty well desolate. My uncle built a brand new grocery store over there, and it thrived during the mining thing going on, but since the mines closed and he gave it to his daughter and stuff, it was just foreclosed on and it's closed down. They didn't have enough people stay there after the big boom in order to support their town. Luckily, we're in a little bit different area than they are, that hopefully maybe it's something we can sustain longer with other type of work, but
But still, there's many in town, ghost towns left over from just this.
Part of history. So
So
how long is the video?
Too long.
about 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it's too long.
Oh, come on, Corey, you'd never watch it if we don't make you.
I don't want to watch it. I'm gonna be on the front lines dealing with all those stuff
Well,
anyway,
you got to find
so-
out what it is. It's up to you guys if you want to watch it or not.
I wouldn't mind watching it, but
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. Corey, would you mind going
well,
and
I pulled it up and then I got busy reading all my other stuff.
go? It should start at 2:16 and just push play on her deal.
Talked about.
Yeah. My sister is a high voltage electrician. She's pulled in there.
Are you guys watching a video?
Actually, my nephew is
Are you guys watching a video?
he's certified in electrician.
We're doing.
Yeah, my sister is.
I seen it. I followed up
I'm
on
going
it.
to bed. I gotta get to. We're going to bed.
Mine's drilling,
Oh,
Do what I said.
yeah.
gas.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Well, you don't want to stay for the video, that's what you're saying.
Was that, did you make a motion? Did you second it?
No, no.
Oh, I'll second it.
I'll tell you what,
You
I'll
do
watch
that?
the video with you if you get up at 2 and go check it
No,
out.
we can,
So are we
we can
adjourned?
adjourn.
I see
Stand
it.
up and come right along, right?
No, I don't want to. I sleep
I don't want to.
I sleep at 2 in the morning.
I want to too.
Okay,
We have a
we have a motion to adjourn.
and a second.
Who seconded it?
I did.
No, it's been moved and seconded, we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're gonna watch video.
Oh, so it's not gonna be part of the meeting?
I've seen it.
Mine went down
Yeah,
Levi wants to go home and go to bed. He's been up since 2.
Had issues downloading it because it's 3.5 hours
Send me a
long.
copy.
Yeah, but
The
it,
whole
but
entire
it
thing.
tells you where to go.
Oh.
You know, 2 minutes, or, 2 hours.
So much going right now.
Download the whole thing.
I just watched it on my phone.
Yeah,
Every once in a while. it'll go
but
down.
those,
I kept fast forward until I got to that certain part.
That's what I did, I just fast forwarded right to
On my
it.
laptop.
I almost put those on.
Where are my
They
glasses?
were
Ron?
right on top of my eyeglasses.
This first.
option is, they'll generate that.
I think this is amazing.
Should
I do too. I don't have any problem with that. We need to do